to hop up on here to make sure everybody is aware of what is going on right now. I am seized, obviously, by the Charlie Kirk assassination trial, and I want to make sure I'm breaking down to the public what is happening, because there is a hearing live right now, the defense versus the prosecution. Prosecution is representing Erika Kirk because she is the victim on this case, and you might recall that Erika did this news hit a while ago. It was kind of weird, where she just asserted, and then they passed around, that she really wanted to make sure that her right to a speedy trial was observed, okay? And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, why? Well, it turns out that now we are understanding that this is going to be the prosecution's strategy, and I will be very clear here. I do not believe Tyler Robinson is...
Candace Owens went live, and right in the middle of breaking down the trial, she dropped a point that completely flipped the direction of the conversation. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Tyler Robinson anymore. It became about why Erika Kirk seems to be pushing a version of events that no one is being allowed to fully examine. Once that shift happened, people were locked in and not looking away. Candace didn't ease into it either. She went straight at the hearing while it was still unfolding in real time.
Charlie Kirk, and I believe that Turning Point USA is implicated in this moment in a cover-up of sorts, okay? What various roles were played, but to me, looking at the evidence, which I have done more than anybody else, there is a cover-up taking place, and this hearing proves it, okay? So they were supposed to have a probable cause hearing in May. It is slated on the calendar. When they agreed to do this in May, the defense, Tyler Robinson's defense, was like, well, we shouldn't set a date until we all get our discovery requests. And they were like, we're just going to put it on the calendar. Don't worry. We're just going to throw it on the calendar. And then, of course, if you guys don't have what you need, the case will not go forward. Lo and behold, Erika goes on Fox News and says, I want to make sure it's a speedy trial on the victim, whatever. And so now we're hearing that directly from the defense, and the prosecution is not disputing this, they both agree, that the ATF and the FBI will not hand over their data files.
She watched as both sides argued over something that shouldn't even be controversial in the first place. Access to evidence. That's it. That's what the fight is about. And the fact that this is even being debated is exactly what started making everything feel off to a lot of people. According to the defense, they still haven't received the actual raw files from the FBI or the ATF. Not full reports, not original data, just summaries. Filtered, pre-packaged summaries that they're expected to accept without question. And somehow, even with that gap, the prosecution is still pushing forward with a televised probable cause hearing.
Data files that they have had in their possession since September, despite multiple requests from the defense, they're like, we literally cannot have this hearing because we have not been given any data files. What am I talking about? This is crucial. Erika's team is arguing, we want the hearing to go through anyways, it's just a probable cause hearing. Okay, but they are basing this probable cause hearing, they want this to be televised, and they're gonna say, what evidence do you have that Tyler Robinson did this? And the prosecution is going to say, well, we have his fingerprints that are on the gun. Well, what they're not telling you is that they're saying they have his fingerprints on the gun. That's just a summary report that the FBI gave to the defense. The defense is saying, okay, now can we see the digitized files? Can we see the fingerprints? Can we see your process and how you got this? No. You just get the summary. The summary report is all you need. No, actually, we need to make sure that what you're saying you saw and what you have is real.
That one detail kept coming up again and again, and it's not hard to see why. If the case against Tyler Robinson is really as airtight and solid as it's being claimed, then why does access to the full evidence seem like such a fight? Then the question hit hard. Why is the evidence getting filtered before anyone outside the prosecution can actually see it for real? What's being hidden inside those untouched files that nobody's allowed to check? That's when the energy started to shift in a quiet but serious way. It wasn't just about Tyler Robinson anymore. It started circling Erika Kirk, and the intense pressure coming from her side became impossible to ignore.
I never dated here because I saw vicariously through my roommate how terrible it was. Somehow getting drinks was the replacement of having coffee and breakfast. I personally would rather have coffee or brunch with someone than going, I don't drink. I find it unproductive, not because I'm holier than whatever. I just don't operate that way. But I always thought it was very strange how she would go to drinks with one guy and then go to dinner with another. So it goes twofold here. So if you're expecting to marry someone that I was blessed with, like a Charlie, you have to be the type of woman that will attract a Charlie. Are you going to church? Are you going to Bible study?
This sudden push for a fast hearing didn't just pop up out of nowhere. On the surface, it was presented clean and emotional. A grieving widow asking for justice, someone simply wanting the process to move forward. But once you really line up the timeline and look at how hard things are being pushed, it starts to feel different. It stops sounding like a simple request and starts raising eyebrows. Now it looks more like a move to lock in one specific version of events before anyone gets the chance to question it properly. Candace dropped a point that sounds simple, but it hits way harder the more you think about it.
Really handsome.
You look gorgeous. Are you fixing my... I got a little bacon. Babe, that's deep in there. Give them cleavage. People want cleavage. Showcase it.
Sex sells, babe.
Sex sells. That's me.
That's against our religion.
It's not within the confines of marriage.
The defense isn't out here asking for anything wild or unusual. They want to see how the fingerprints were actually analyzed. They want to check the chain of custody. They want to confirm the timeline that supposedly places Tyler Robinson at the scene. That's basic legal groundwork. Nothing extra, nothing shady. And yet they're getting shut down. Instead of real access, they're handed summaries and told to just accept it as fact. That's where things start to feel off. It stops looking like normal courtroom procedure and starts feeling tightly controlled, like the flow of information is being managed behind the scenes. And then it gets even more intense.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
No, and I know you're going to keep saying that. I understand.
Yeah.
Like, I know that.
No, I know.
And I know there's probably no magic string of words that I could piece together to procure some type of answer. But
Yeah.
I think on a surface level, like, I'm not going to walk out of here until I say my piece. Like, I mean, y'all know this. I just worked a series of 80, 90-hour weeks plus for AmFest.
Yeah, I think
I've had no direction or explanation since we've come back. Our CEO has been assassinated. I've done nothing but backwards for this organization, and the point where I'm wondering if this is a prank.
A probable cause hearing isn't supposed to be a show. It's not meant for cameras or public spectacle. But this one, it's being pushed toward that direction, all while arguments are built on claims that can't even be properly challenged in real time, because the actual data hasn't been shared. That's where the bigger question kicks in, and it's hard to ignore. Why rush something into the spotlight so aggressively when the foundation of the case isn't even fully visible to the people who are supposed to defend against it? This is where older stories start lining up. Not as hard proof, but as pieces that start forming a pattern when you put them side by side. One clip in particular kept coming up. The casting tape Candace brought back into the spotlight.
It's not a prank. I would never do that.
So I'm just trying to understand. And
No, I understand. It's time to...
so do I get to have a conversation with Dylan? Do I get to have a conversation with Justin or anybody, or
Nope.
no? And there's no explanation as to why I'm going to let go.
Right now, we'll leave it all.
You know, and you're going to keep saying a different direction, but I'm trying to understand how I've met multiple times with my...
We're going a different direction with the team, and I have to ask you to leave now.
You have to ask me to leave the property?
Yes,
Due to what, Frank?
because we're asking you to leave because you've been terminated and we're not.
But there's no explanation or documentation for this. I've never had one bad review from Dylan. I've never had one issue with the company. I've never done anything unethical. And so I'm sitting here understanding why my entire livelihood is being completely tossed out.
It showed a completely different version of Erika. She looked energetic, playful, openly chasing attention in a reality TV audition setting. That image feels worlds apart from the calm, disciplined, and reserved persona she presents today. Now, on its own, that doesn't automatically mean anything is wrong. People change, people grow, that's normal. But critics weren't stuck on the fact that she had a past. They were zeroing in on how that past seemed to be kept out of sight very carefully. Because publicly, Erika described her life before meeting Charlie Kirk in a very controlled and structured way. She painted a picture of minimal distractions, no chaotic environments, and a steady, clean personal history. That's a completely different tone from what those older clips and photos were showing. And once that gap became obvious, it got people talking in a serious way.
I mean, I sat in
No,
the chair.
you're gonna do great things.
No, and I
You're
plan
likely
to.
I don't think you're likely to being tossed out. I think you're very successful.
Well, my paycheck every other week is being tossed out, Frank, with absolutely no warning whatsoever.
I understand. At this time, it's time for you to.
It's time for me to go. Why? Like this is the treatment that Turning Point is offering now.
It's time to go.
Frank, this is crazy.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I don't think you do. This feels very heartless. This feels without emotion.
I do understand where you're coming from.
This feels completely without emotion.
Why did that version of her story seem so tightly managed? And who made sure it stayed out of view for so long? Then the timeline questions started rolling in, and these ones hit hard. Before Erika ever stepped into political circles, she was already moving through spaces built on visibility and influence. We're talking pageants, fashion opportunities, and high-level networking environments that connect to powerful social circles more than most people even realize. At certain points, she was placing herself right in the middle of high fashion scenes, tied to environments known for quietly overlapping with major influential figures. Now, to be clear, none of that automatically means anything improper happened.
I think I always had that girly girl hidden within me. After being such a tomboy and experiencing that my whole life, it was like, oh, I can curl my hair, I can put on the mascara. I come from a great family that has very amazing genetics, so thanks, Mom and Dad.
But when you start lining these moments up in order, it stops feeling like random coincidence and starts looking more connected. The pattern begins to stand out in a way that people can't ignore. Then, Romania enters the picture. The nonprofit project called Romanian Angels was presented publicly as simple humanitarian work. But when people started digging into the details, they noticed gaps that raised eyebrows. It wasn't licensed for formal adoption, and it functioned more like community outreach than a structured placement program. Over time, parts of its digital footprint even became harder to track and verify, which only added more questions to the situation. On its own, that might not seem like a big deal. But once older records started linking that project to controversial figures operating in the same region during the same time period, people started paying much closer attention.
And you can see from behind me, this is a recreation of the tent where Charlie Kirk lost his life at Utah University in September, and people are taking selfies with it.
I can't. I cannot. I am not capable of whatever that. When I saw this, I realized I do not know enough words. I had to consult a thesaurus, and I still could not land upon the correct adjective to describe.
The tone shifted fast, and suddenly, those details didn't feel so easy to brush off anymore. And this is exactly where Candace keeps pulling the focus back. Because if this case was truly only about Tyler Robinson, none of that background would even matter. It wouldn't carry weight. But the way this hearing is playing out tells a different story. Something bigger feels like it's on the line. The speed of it all, the pushback against basic transparency, the intense effort to move things forward before the defense can fully review what they're legally allowed to examine, it all stands out. Put all of that together, and it starts creating a strong impression that the outcome matters more to certain people than the fairness of the process itself. That's where the idea of panic starts to creep in. Not loud or chaotic, but controlled, calculated, and just a little too rushed to ignore. It's the kind of situation where everything looks polished and planned on the surface, but underneath, there's just a little too much urgency showing through. You can spot it in the timeline after Charlie Kirk's passing. There was a rapid shift into leadership roles, quick involvement in major organizational decisions, and reports of big internal changes happening behind the scenes. The pace alone stood out to a lot of people as unusual given the circumstances. Then there's the leaked audio Candace brought up. Conversations about merchandise tied directly to Charlie's name were happening almost immediately after his passing.
How I felt when I saw that tent, people taking selfies under a recreation. I don't know if it's actually the tent. It looks like it's pretty old, or a tent that Charlie died under. That's what was happening at AmFest. Horrified. I was aghast. I don't think I ever described myself as aghast. I was aghast. It was ghastly to look at that and to realize that they made a conscious decision to allow that to happen. To what end?
Before the public had even fully processed the loss, before there was any real pause. That timing caught attention fast, because moments like that tend to reveal what's being prioritized behind closed doors. It also shows up in public appearances. There's a clear effort to stay in control of the narrative at all times, to shape exactly how the story is told and when details come out. Every statement feels timed, every appearance carefully managed, every message shaped before it even reaches the public. The consistency of that approach is hard to ignore, and now it's playing out in the courtroom too. Because if everything about this case is as clear and straightforward as it's being presented, then there shouldn't be any resistance to handing over the full files. There shouldn't be any problem letting the defense properly review and verify the claims being made against their client. There shouldn't be any issue with slowing things down just enough to make sure everything holds up under real scrutiny from every angle. But that's not what's happening here. Instead, there's a strong, aggressive push to move forward, even with missing pieces, unanswered questions, and a defense team that still hasn't received everything they're legally supposed to review. And that detail shifts everything in a major way. Because once you spot that pattern, the case stops being only about whether Tyler Robinson did what he's accused of doing. It turns into a bigger question. Why does the entire system around this case seem to be moving like this? And why does Erika Kirk appear to be right at the center of that pressure? Candace isn't stepping back either. She's pushing even harder. She's calling out inconsistencies as they pop up, forcing attention onto details that might have been ignored otherwise. She's making sure the conversation doesn't just fade away under the weight of a carefully built public narrative. Because of that, people are watching this situation in a completely different way now. It's not just about the evidence anymore, it's about behavior. Not just what's being said, but what's being left unsaid and why. The online community is fully locked in. One user wrote, "Charlie never had a better friend than Candace." Another critic said bluntly, "Why does Erika Kirk even have a say in any of this?" She is not the victim in this case. Charlie is another person added. A speedy trial is a right that belongs to the defendant, not the victim's wife. Those words hit hard, and they reflect something a lot of people are starting to feel. There's a growing frustration with a process that seems to be bending in one direction, where one side is being pushed forward while the other can't even access the basic evidence needed to build a real defense. And no matter how many times people try to move past it, the same question keeps coming back stronger every time. If everything being claimed is real, if this case is truly as solid as it's being presented, then why the rush? Why keep parts of it out of reach? Why filter what the defense is allowed to see? And why push for television coverage before the foundation of the case has even been fully examined? These aren't minor technical details. They go straight to the core of what this process is supposed to be about. Because questions like these determine whether this is actually about justice or something else entirely. And if this case is only about Tyler Robinson, then why does the entire energy around it feel like something bigger is being protected behind the scenes? What's sitting in those files that a simple summary couldn't replace? That's the question dividing people right now.